So, hello out there. This is Rhonda Y. Williams, the stress free leader, and welcome to the show. We're going to start off with our quote for today. So, take chances, make mistakes. That is how we grow. Pain nourishes your courage. You have to fail in order to practice being brave. And that's a quote by Mary Tyler Moore. So it's with this context that I introduce our guest for today. I have the great honor and pleasure of having Victoria Wieck join me today. Victoria is the epitome of rags to riches, the American dream story. After immigrating to America with her parents and only $30, she has built a multi-million dollar business with over 500 million in retail sales. After a series of corporate jobs, Victoria started her own company. And in 1989, it was on a shoestring budget to spend more time with her family. For the past 22 years, 19 on HSN and 3 on Shop HQ, Victoria has been sharing her jewelry designs with millions of viewers on her own monthly shows. She's built a highly successful business following her passion for jewelry. And here's the key: it was without sacrificing her family life. So, Victoria, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? It's great to be here and such an honor to share this time with you and your listeners. Amazing. Amazing
Thank you.
show. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. And I have to start, Victoria, I made a mistake. I went online, and as I was doing my research and preparing for the show, I looked at your jewelry. And now I have a whole list of items that I want to.
Yeah, I love jewelry. I mean, all women, I think that's how we bond. We like sparkly things, colorful little things, and it just kind of brings out all the little girls in us, I think,
It's
which is good.
awesome. So I will be checking things off my list over the course of the next year or so. So thank you
Sounds
for
great.
the
Yeah.
amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to start with your journey, and I want to ask you to take us back to the early time. I know when you immigrated here with your parents, you were just a small girl, but as you began to move through that transition, what stands out most for you? What are some of the most memorable parts of that transition?
Well, like you said, I was, at a very impressionable age, and my life really changed upside down at that point. So when you talk about rags to riches stories, a lot of times you go from having nothing to, having something great. I went from having everything back in Korea to losing everything when we got here. Because when we left Korea, we weren't like really rich, but we had everything we needed. We had a great family. We lived on the beach. In Korea back then, you had rich people, poor people. And our family was considered affluent, so we had a driver, a cook, and all that. And then we got here in search of the American dream, and all of my parents' assets got kind of frozen. And he discovered the next day that he only had $30. So
Mm.
that was actually worse, because then like I don't think I've ever done laundry or anything like that until I got here. And then the very next day, literally, my parents started, my mom went to work in a sewing factory. She had never worked a day in her life before. And my dad, pumped gas. So it was really a shock. But, when you're a kid, you kind of I think you're better at absorbing shock a little bit. Because at that point, you can either just be really resentful and just hate everything and, just cry all day and go back home, or you can just go, you know what, I've got no option but to just grow up. So you just have to make that decision without having to think about, you don't have time to think about that. And I think that looking back, I think that that was almost a blessing, because you don't really when you're just when your choices are so simple, either move forward or move back.
Right.
There's nothing in between. It becomes almost easier, you know what I mean?
I do. I do. I think,
Yeah.
and that's an excellent point, because I think sometimes today we have so many options
I
that it
know.
can
Isn't that
paralyze
something?
us,
Yeah,
right? And
it
then we
does.
freeze, and then we don't know what to do. But like you said, when the choices are simple,
Yeah.
then it becomes easy to move forward. And as I was really learning a little bit more about you, I understand that your drawing started in an early age. And a part of it was to be able to communicate
Right,
with
right.
us. And so, is that right?
Yeah, it's true. When I came here speaking no English, I had no friends. And then, it doesn't say in the bio there that you read, but I actually started going to work at about age 15. So I, didn't have chance to really learn English other than going to school and just kind of like immersed myself in there. But I was the oldest of the five kids. So I took my younger brother, who was just a few months old, on a bus. I had to take three different buses, and I would pick him up from school like he was in a daycare. So after school, I got on the bus, took three buses to get over there, and then three buses back to pick him up from there. And then I cooked for the rest of my family. I did all that stuff. So the next day when I got to school and I'm trying to like say something, and then you don't have the words for it, so I would draw it. And so my drawing I was already really into art, but it just became much more expedited and much more descriptive. So I was able to, I'm pretty good at like Pictionary, I guess, right now. So, I got to really be very good at describing my words. And then later on, I got to draw to express my feelings.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's really powerful. And at the time, you were doing it out of necessity.
Mhm.
And did you have any idea that all of these years, you fast forward later, and it would become such a important part of your life and who you've become?
No, and that's really interesting because I was just in that survival mode. You're just trying to survive day to day, and you're trying to like literally we were looking to feed ourselves and pay rent, all those things. And even though my parents did not put that on me, I could feel their burden. So I did all of that as a necessity. And my only American dream at that time really was just to be able to have my own car someday, because I didn't like the bus. And just to be able to kind of, live like other people have their own apartment and all that. That was my dream, was really simple.
Mm.
And then later on, when I started my company almost as a hobby. It was always a hobby because I doodled, and I didn't have a lot of friends because I didn't have time. The only times I had was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I doodled and I, drew almost like therapy. And that's how I expressed myself. And later on, it was how I expressed my feelings. And so when I started my company, I had no expectations. I just wanted to be able to make like $35,000 a year. That was my dream number. And so that I could stay home and, still like have enough money to pay for little incidentals. And, because my dream at that time was to be a great mother, a great, wife and great daughter, all those things, and still be fulfilled for me.
Mhm.
Um, when I started I would say that within the first year, I was really passionate about what I did. And I think I was really I have a pulse on other people. Like when I talk to you, I don't think about what you're saying to me. I think about how you're selling to me. Like I look at like, are you in pain? Because you're always happy, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, she's really happy, and I can see that Rhonda is a really optimistic person, and she's always somebody. It doesn't matter what you tell her, she's going to be looking for a solution out of there. So I feel that from you. You don't have to say a thing. I feel it. And so when I design jewelry, I think because I always go for the feeling rather than the aesthetics, I
Mm.
think I connected with millions of women for that reason. And I think I hit the $1 million mark within the first 24 months, which was,
Wow.
I mean,
So
yeah, it was crazy.
So that's really interesting and really powerful. And I love how you describe the way that you connect with people because knowing and in our time together, I've
Yeah,
seen this from you. You pick it up and you're able to articulate it back really, really well. It's a pretty amazing skill and a gift, actually. And so as you think about the fact that you just went into this with this small goal, no huge
yeah.
expectations, did you have major challenges to overcome, or did it all come really smoothly?
Oh my God, the challenges were enormous. First off, when you don't speak English, that really does limit you a lot. When you don't have a car, it limits you even more. It's like when you don't speak English, it's almost like you don't have a mouth, you don't have a voice. When you don't have a car, you don't have any feet, any legs, because in Los Angeles, like you can't get around. So
Mhm.
those were really obvious obstacles, but there was also a lot of stigma about women going to work at that time.
Mm.
And there was no infrastructure for small business. It was just big corporate. All of us who went to work, went to corporate America. The odds of starting a small business, especially in a creative field, was just it's slim and none. So those were, I was told by everybody, even people that loved me, professors and everybody, you know what, Vic, we love you. I mean, I can't stand to see you fail. It's a no-win situation. Like, just, you have a great career, you have, amazing degrees, stay with the job. That was what I was told. But I think what I found out at some point was, even though the society programs you to think you're not good enough, you're not going to succeed, you can't succeed,
Mhm.
and not that you're not good enough, it's just the society isn't there yet for you. There was just all these excuses. And one thing my father told me is, get rid of the word because. He said, I want you to learn English, but the only word I want you to forget it existed was the word because that's an excuse word. It's not
Mm.
a results word. So get rid of the word because, and just find a way to, because where there's a will, there is a way, and it's up to you to figure it out. So, life isn't fair, as you know, Rhonda. Like, at that time, there was a lot of suppression of women in high places. First of all, like, when we went to work with these little, almost like little men's ties, way back then. And also, the other thing was, in like a housing, for example, we went to places where they didn't want to rent to you because they didn't think you could pay the rent, all this stuff, without even looking at the application. So all of that stuff was, life wasn't fair, but that doesn't mean that doesn't give you the excuse to sit back and, just take it. You just have to work twice as hard and just keep on moving. And I think all those things in the end helped me become more successful, because I'm so used to that workload. I'm so used to just, charging ahead and having like nothing around me bother me. But at some point, I realized, why am I sitting here listening to other people telling me what I can and cannot do? Right?
Right.
This is America. And if I fail, it will be on my own terms. And if I fail, I will make sure that I will fall forward,
Right.
and I will learn, and I'm going to get up again. And so, because that's the only choice I had, by the way, I didn't have, anything else. So when you don't have any choice, you only have hope and faith left. And so that's,
Wow.
that's my story.
It's really a great point that you bring up, because so many of us are so afraid to fail. I sort of call it getting stuck in the what if syndrome, right? What if this doesn't work? And what if this goes wrong? And what if they say this? And what if they do this? And the next thing you know, you're putting your dreams on the back burner, or you're not making the decisions that you would normally make because you're so afraid of what is going to happen and the what ifs. And so, that brings me to another thing that I noticed and from our time together and being able to see the passion and the quality in the way that you approach things. I want to ask you about what your journey has taught you about making choices and being true to your values and who you are.
It's really interesting. You opened your segment today with something that is so relevant, afraid of falling, afraid of, failing, and just really having that courage. And I know that in your own journey, you have experienced a lot of setbacks, just and they weren't little setbacks. They were just pretty kind of life shattering type things.
Mhm.
And so I think and I know you understand this, when you go through experiences like this, your whole perspective on life changes. You know what I mean? Like, your whole perspective on, you don't, like, a lot of times when I'm talking to people and they're telling me about, somebody screwed up on their hair or whatever, and, just completely ruined their day, and they're talking about it like 3 weeks after,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's such a first world problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that having gone through the setbacks that people like you and I have had to go through, it just made, I think it made my journey richer and easier as you move along. Like you said, you are, every time you fall and you get up, you're learning something.
Mhm.
And those are when you learn those hard lessons, and that's how you are enriched. And so the next time you fall, you actually even know how to fall forward. Like when you learn how to ski, most kids like fall backwards, they eventually learn how to fall forward, and then they don't fall anymore. So I think it's that too. I mean, I think my journey is very unique because I think I didn't expect anything. All I had was passion and hope, and I compassion. Like I have a lot of compassion, and I think when I didn't, and I couldn't speak English, and I think that was almost a blessing because I had to express my feelings. And when I express my feelings with my drawings, and then I look at, so you probably know, I know you notice this because when I talk to people and when we are even discussing like marketing language, the first thing I think about is how is it going to be heard on the other end?
Mm-hmm.
Because like so many of us think about, well, I want to say this, I want to say that, and I want to do this, I want to say that, but you have to think about, if you're going to say something, anything to anybody, you better pay attention to how that's going to be heard at the other end. And what I do is when I write anything, like when I wrote a fiction, and I would read it out loud to myself to see how that's going to be heard, because a lot of times when you're writing, you don't really think about how that person's going to receive it at the end. And it could be little words here and there, but depending on each of our life experiences, that perspective changes. You know what I mean? There are certain words that might mean great things and might mean kind of like, oh, I don't even understand what that is. So I think that a lot of our, the point I'm trying to get at is a lot of our setbacks actually were little, there were silver linings in
Mm-hmm.
all that, if you choose to see it as silver linings, I guess.
Absolutely. One of the years ago, I was going to write a book when all of this craziness was happening in my life. And, my job, I ended up losing my job and got divorced right after that. And like all of these major catastrophes, I was going to write a book called, Lemons to Lemonade or whatever, because
Yeah, yeah.
I was determined that, okay, this is a moment in time and I now have a choice. Do I let this define me? Or do I take whatever lessons I can take out of this and put them in my toolbox and begin to move forward? And so for me, that almost that point of, this is not a decision, right? You only
Right,
have one
you have a
way.
choice. Yeah, you
Go
don't
here.
really
You
have a
got to
choice.
go
Yeah,
forward. And so you might as well make the best of it. So I also know that you love nature, and you can even
I
see the
do.
beauty
Yeah.
behind you. And so, with your love of nature, does that contribute at all to ways that you choose to reduce your stress or de stress or relax? Or what's your routine for de stressing and relaxing?
I think I was going to talk to you about this because I know that you focused on stress free, emotional intelligence, and all that. And I think I have, pretty good emotional intelligence just because I've had to deal with people's feelings. And, I'm a very real, because of the experience I've gone through, I don't ever judge anybody. I respect everyone's opinions and all that. But in terms of stress, after we were talking a lot about stress, I realized that I'm one of those people that learned to live with so much stress in my life
Hmm.
that I don't actually really even realize sometimes that I'm under stress.
Right.
That I've actually just become a very good good at either masking my stress or coping with my stress rather than eliminating that.
Got it.
So I think that when people look at me or talk to me, they think like I'm really at peace. It's not that I'm not a peaceful person or anything, but in my business, like right now, this time of the year, I've got so much going on. And, I've got a mother-in-law who's 100 years old, and my mom is like 80 something, and it COVID, so a lot of stuff goes on all the time. And when I do get that stress, I don't like, I just basically, learn to have coping mechanisms. So as long as you're coping with them, you're not actually learning to like de-stress.
Right.
And I think to myself sometimes, well, I don't have time to de-stress. I think that's really the wrong approach to live that way. So I've got some work to do there. Um,
Mhm.
I got some work to do there. But I think that is, especially when you go into that corporate world, a lot of your vice presidents or CEOs, I mean, you could actually see the stress. You could feel the stress. You could actually walk in a room and feel the stress in the air. And if
Mhm.
you ask them, "Oh my God, this must be so stressful," they'll say, "No, it's not that bad," but they're really stressed out. So I think that is something that I'm gonna, in my evolution of working towards self improvement. I think I'm going to be trying to kind of 2021. I'm going to try to kind of look inward a little bit and work on that.
I love that. And I thank you for your transparency there because it is easy for people to look from the outside and say, oh, wow, everything's perfect. There is no stress.
Yeah, I
But we
know
know that that's not true. And we
it's
also
not
know that the way stress works is the body often reacts and responds to stress, even if we are not mentally processing it. Right. So there
right.
we have stress reactors and cortisol gets released and then there are all of these effects that can build up over time. So I'm so happy that that's one of the outcomes and the things that you're going to go into 2020 with. We're going to move into our wrap up session segment. And I like three questions as we wrap up. And so the three questions, one of them is a pay it forward question. The second question is some random crazy favorites question. And then the third question is we definitely want you to share how people can connect with you, learn about more about what you do, and to follow you sort of in the social world. So, for the first question, your pay it forward question is you meet a young and aspiring entrepreneur. They are full of passion, yet you, especially sort of being the person who really connects with feelings, you can feel that they have a very heavy heart because they don't want to disappoint others. And pursuing this dream would mean getting off of the path that people have seen them on for such a long time. What advice would you offer?
I think that, I know I've been there before. One of, if you're really somebody who's really connected to your family, people, you're a lucky person enough to have that network support system. You got two things going on. Number one, you don't want to disappoint yourself. You're afraid of failing, but then you also don't want to disappoint other people, your family members or whoever, if you got a spouse and, there's money involved, you're going to, drain a little bit of the money. So you've got that, it's a twofold stress. But I think that, you just really have to believe that you weren't born on this earth to fail forever, and that all successful journeys require you to fail.
Mhm.
I mean, let me tell you something, success is ugly.
Mhm.
It's ugly. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's ugly. It's not fun at times. It's nobody promised you a rose garden, but what's beautiful about that is the discovery that how much you can handle, and discovery of how beautiful it is when you look back all this stuff that you went through. I think that for me, success is not a destination; it is a journey,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful journey. It's a wild ride, but I would encourage you to take it because number one, what have you got to lose? You can always go get a job,
Right.
and number two, if you don't do it, you would never know. You would never know. But I guarantee you, a journey, a dream life worth having is going to have obstacles of one way or another,
Mhm.
and just if you kind of plan that in and expect it, you're not going to be disappointed ever. And that's, and I think that if you have that discipline and you never give up hope, no matter what happens to you, you will succeed. And that I guarantee you.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that success is a journey. I say that all the time
Really?
that,
Yeah, I do.
and don't miss the journey. Don't miss the joy in the little moments because you're
Hmm.
looking at a destination, which often may not ever come because it
Yeah,
keeps
yeah,
changing. We keep
yeah.
moving the destination, right?
Right. Well, in my case, I passed that a long time ago. All I
Right.
ever wanted was a, stupid little car. I passed that a long time ago, and it's just never. So I would say to anybody who has a dream to continue to, this whole country, this whole world is full of, especially women who had an idea, who have a dream, and they, just never gave up, be tenacious, and enjoy the ride. I mean,
Mhm.
and really enjoy the ride.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at your life.
Mhm.
When you go through a divorce and you lose your job, and it's easy to go, geez, my life sucks. And, I tried it and it's just like, it's just awful. Well,
It
you know what? No, that's the easy, that's an easy way out. And, in some ways it's actually a tough way out because you'll never have the joy. That life will just be miserable forever.
mhm.
But, getting up and go, you know what, I'm not going to this define me. I'm better than this, and there's a reason why these things happen to me, and I'm going to fix it. I am not going to, I refuse to live miserably. Just settle for more. Don't ever settle back. And don't, I think it's easier said than done, but practice that in your life every day. And I think it'll, pay great rewards for you.
I love that. I love that. So the next question is the crazy random question, and I've got this book of top tens, and so I'm just randomly pulling questions out for today. For you, I chose. I like to choose two questions in case you absolutely hate one question, you can answer the other. So you can either share your favorite movie and
Mhm.
why, or your favorite dessert and why.
So my favorite movie, that's easy. Godfather.
Mm.
I know most people think I'm nuts, but first of all, I love the soundtrack from it. I'm a huge music fan. I play classical music. I'm a huge I just love all kinds of music. So because like when it goes back to my whole life about art and music, and that's how you express feelings. So it's great. But the movie, I love the scenery, I love the cinematography, but more than anything, the how fragile human mind is,
Mm.
and how you know I think that all of us in that movie can justify, like Michael Corleone. Like, you think that he was the one guy that that was going to go straight, and he becomes this mobster and all that. So I just, even though a lot of those characters like end up doing some horrible things, they all think that that's what they have to do. And when I watch that movie, it reminds me every day to not to live the life you think you have to.
Mm.
Think the life that you want to live. You always have a way out. And so, for all of us who are thinking, I've got this huge house, I got to pay my mortgage, I got to pay my kids' tuition, whatever. So I need to go get a job, and I can't quit, and I got to put my dream on hold. All of that. I mean, just I'd suggest that you really look inward and think about, simplifying your life so that, start living your life now, not when you retire, not when you got
Mm.
enough money, because that day never comes if you keep chasing that.
That is wow. That is powerful. And it's such a great point. I'm gonna have to think about that too for my own life. So, Victoria, so how can people, is there a way if someone wants to follow the work, the amazing work that you're doing? And listen, if you're out there listening to the sound of my voice, the jewelry collection is absolutely amazing. I was not kidding earlier, so do check that out. But how can they get in touch with you?
So I have a podcast, and it's called the $1 Million Hobbies, where I can, I help my listeners turn their hobbies or idea into $1 million dream. So it's $1 million hobbies.com, or you can check out victoriawick.com, and there's a whole bio and, beautiful jewelry pieces and all that. So I'm just so delighted that I had this time with you today. And, each time I talk to you, Rhonda, I just realize how much we have in common.
Mhm.
Like how our perspective on life, on stress and all that. And I think our journeys are very similar. Like, we've had to go through a lot of stuff,
We
ugly
did.
stuff. And and so when you go through that, with that comes maturity, knowledge, and the desire to help other people. And I just love that we can spend that time together.
I am so excited and delighted to number one to know you and to have been able to spend some time with you, which is absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for joining me here on the show today. And I'm hoping that everyone out there got lots of little nuggets from your wisdom and your journey that they can apply to their own. Um, for everyone out there listening, I want you to consider this question as you walk away from this. Is there a rainbow or a pot of gold waiting on the other side of the challenges that are present in your life today? So, as you ponder that and begin to figure out your way forward, I absolutely wish you all the best with the action steps to create your 360-degree stress free life. Until next time, signing off.